Good evening. I call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of Board of Trustees is present, that the meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. At this time, the board will go into closed session. Good evening. I call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of Board of Trustees is present, that the meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. We will now go into our action from closed session. Do I have a motion to approve the recommendation of the superintendent as presented in closed session of the administrative appointment of principal of Central Elementary?
So moved.
Cassandra?
Second.
Renee. Cassandra moved and Renee seconded to approve. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passed 7-0. We will now move into opening ceremonies. Cassandra Phillips will lead us in our invocation and the pledges to our flags.
Thank you, Madam President. Please bow your head while we pray. Lord, we come to you this evening with grateful hearts, thankful for the opportunity to see another day, thankful for our DISD board, staff, leadership team, police department, students, and their families. Lord, we thank you for touching the hearts of our legislators and leading them to do what's right for our educators. We know that there will always be work to be done, and we humbly ask for your guidance with every decision to be made. We ask for traveling grace for our youth and government students as they travel on their college tour this month. Finally, Lord, we ask that you cover each and every student and their family with your blood and keep them safe as they move about their daily lives. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please be seated. Thank you, Ms. Phillips. I will now turn the meeting over to Dr. Smith for our budget workshop.
Thank you, Madam President. Before we proceed into the budget workshop, I ask Ms. Kathleen Brown to come up and introduce our new principal at Central Elementary.
Good morning, Good afternoon, evening, Madam President, Dr. Smith, Board of Trustees. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Ms. Ayanna Parker. Mrs. Parker has been a part of the Duncanville ISD family for 24 years. She did her student teaching here. Wow. She joined the district in 1995 as a teacher at Central Elementary School. Since that time, at that same campus, she has served as a teacher, instructional coach, and is currently the assistant principal. She's highly motivated, hardworking, and devoted to the mission of Duncanville ISD. We're excited to have Mrs. Parker move into her next role here in the district as the principal of Central Elementary School.
I'm going to try not to get emotional because this is a really special moment to me. So I just want to thank my family and friends for being here today. And it's just, I'm really excited to be, and an honor to be chosen to lead Central. Central is so special to me. It's where I started teaching. Yeah. So when I walked through the doors of Central, that classroom was going to be my classroom forever. I loved my babies. I didn't think I was going to leave. And then somebody pushed me to move and to a leadership position, and I've just continued to forge and lead in several different capacities. But I'm so honored and excited to lead Central, and I just look forward to doing some great things on the campus. So thank you very much.
We congratulate you, Ms. Parker. Would you have your family stand?
Oh, okay.
Glad you're a leader. Central. Ms. Parker, when you were at Central a few years back, did you have a mean old principal named Kathleen Brown? Well, well, we're lucky to still have you. No, she's a goodie. That's good. Okay, Dr. Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President. So we'll go ahead and transition into our budget workshop information. So tonight, this evening, what we'll be doing, Board, is presenting to you our budget. Our team has worked very hard. We've done a lot of studying and preparation over the last month or so as we've tried to digest House Bill 3 and what it means. We've spent a lot of time over the last several months communicating that information to the Board, and really pleased with where we are at this point with what we're working on to get our budget finalized. We have been able to really exceed the state requirements, and so we'll get into the details of what that means to help you see where we are there. We have over a month. We have about 5 weeks from today to the 24th. What's important about that is that, you know, the budget it's a pretty complex, a lot of moving parts, and so I want to make sure that I give you time to digest the information, be able to ask questions, etc. And so obviously we'll do that today, but then even after this evening, there still may be questions or different feedback that you may want. And so we have a little over a month, 5 weeks before the 24th, before we have to adopt the budget. And so I wanted to make sure that we had that gap of time to allow you to process the information. I feel very confident that the recommendation that I'll be bringing to you on the 24th is one that will really address the needs and a lot of the challenges that we have in our district from a compensation standpoint, and really will take care of our teachers. And so that's what we wanted to do. Going into the budget, what I wanted to share with you from my perspective, you know, I wanted to make sure, number one, that the budget I bring to you is a balanced budget. And so the budget that we'll be reviewing with you this evening, it's a balanced budget. And so with all the items that we were able to address and still to bring to you a balanced budget is really a good place for us to be. The other two things that I wanted to make sure that we had in place is to maintain a solid fund balance and maintain our competitiveness with the market. And so you'll see in this budget that we do indeed, even though we're meeting a lot of the needs that we have, we're still able to not only do it in a balanced budget, but also maintain a very solid fund balance. And what's important about that to understand is that even with this budget, I am planning 2 and 4 years out, the next 2 legislative cycles. Why that's important is because what we've shared with you in previous budget workshops and what we'll share again with you, Dr. Big will share that with you this evening, is that several years ago, the legislature did this very thing. They infused a lot of money into the school districts. And then that next session, what they do, they took it all away. And so many, many districts were in a challenged place to, reduce staff, but also reduce the quality of programming because the funding just wasn't there. But what I want to do is really protect Duncanville and make sure that 2 and 4 years out, we're not having to reduce the quality of programs that we offer in the district. And we minimize the potential to have to reduce staff. And so the information we're sharing with you tonight will allow us to be able to ride through whatever unpredictable things may occur over the next 2 and 4 years. Also, what you'll see in this budget is that it was a priority to address some of the areas where we were deficient in terms of where we compare with the market. So the budget that will be presented to you, you'll see that it maintains that competitive edge that is so critical for us. For example, in the summertime, we're all competing in the DFW area for the same quality people. So it's going to be great for us to be able to go out and market what our salary scale is now. Addressing beginning teachers, this budget does that. The 3% raise, this budget and the adjustments associated with those raises, this budget does that. And then addressing the district needs, the feedback that I received from the board in terms of just additional support for the high school, additional focus on the social emotional learning for our students. And so we've been able to do all of those things within this budget. And so really looking forward to sharing the details with you tonight. So the way the process will work tonight, Dr. Bigby will come up here in just a moment and walk you through the first phase of the budget piece. Then Ms. Brown will come up and walk you through the compensation plan. You do have a hard copy in front of you in case you didn't bring yours and you wanted to follow along. We have that for you. And then we're going to ask if you would approve the compensation plan. That would allow us to begin to immediately communicate with potential employers so that they know where we are from a salary standpoint and we can get those people before our competitors get them. And then, of course, we'll make accommodations as needed based on whatever adjustments continue to roll out. The bill literally was just signed by the governor, and so like most districts, it's like a 300-page document, so we're still combing through some of those nuances. More solid information will come out over the next several days, and if things change after we, which I don't expect any major changes, but if there are, we'll just make some modifications and amendments in the budget after we adopt it on the 24th. With that, I'm going to ask Dr. Bigby if he could come up and walk you through the first portion of the information we have for you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Here we are again. Let's see now. I remember to turn this thing on. Okay. A lot of the stuff that we'll cover here in the beginning we thought was going to take place, but until the bill was actually finished, then we weren't sure. The basic allotment was batted around a while and it finally landed at $6,160. The cost of education index, which was a real plus for us, was repealed. And that's a real long story we won't get into tonight, but we'd like to see that stay in. Current allotments, the special ed allotments weren't touched. Can you hear me?
A little bit louder, I guess.
The special ed allotments weren't touched. They left those weights. After studying them for 2 years, they left them where they were. Comp ed allotment, some of those weights were changed. The way comp ed funds are calculated has changed quite a bit. We used to base those on the number of students we had on free and reduced lunch. That's no more. Now they're taking census blocks of our district and assigning kids through the census that were declared living in poverty, and that's how we'll determine our comp ed kids. They took a really simple situation and made it a little more difficult. The first look at those, we're probably going to actually have more kids qualify for comp ed through the census blocks than we would by the old method, so hopefully that'll help us. Bilingual wasn't changed, but there was a 0.15 weight added to dual language programs, which doesn't affect us yet. The Kate allotment was extended down to the 7th and 8th grade, which we do have some career and technology courses in the 7th and 8th grade we've been offering, and now we'll get funding for those. Transportation allotment was changed to funding by per mile, and this hurt us because we do have a small district who run a lot of buses and pick up a lot of kids. They just don't drive a tremendous amount of miles. So unless it's changed, we'll lose a little bit of money there, and it wasn't paying for transportation as it was. So
What was it?
it was done by linear density, of how many kids you had on a bus, and all these intricate formulas, and then they basically boiled it down to they didn't give them much money anyway.
Thank you, thank you.
And this way, it's easier to figure that you're not going to get very much money. Staffing allotment, they used to pay an insurance adjustment for all of our non-certificated employees. That's repealed. It's gone. We picked up about $400,000 a year under that, but it's been removed. They've added this dyslexia allotment of 0.1 weight per student. This is brand new. We haven't had it. We've had a requirement to serve dyslexic kids, but there was no funding. There's an early education allotment, and this is for grades K through 3, and it added a 0.1 allotment. And even though the bill doesn't say it, the understanding is this is how we're going to fund full-day pre-K. We've staffed now to move all of our pre-K to full day. And instead of those kids counting a full student like they would, any other student would, they're still going to count a half a student, only they're going to provide the funding, knock on wood, through this process, and it should, if in fact it does this, then it should fund our pre-K by more than enough to have them here all day, which we certainly need. The college career and military readiness, there's awards. We don't understand how they're going to establish a threshold, but if we have students that meet or go above that threshold, we can receive anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 per student. No one's counting that, putting it in the bank yet. There's a teacher incentive allotment. This is, you develop an appraisal system and determine if your teachers are master teachers, exemplary, or recognized, and they can receive between $3,000 and $32,000. And once again, we don't have the criteria for that, and I'm assuming it's going to be where it's rather difficult to get to the $32,000 stage. But hopefully when TEA makes all the rules out of this legislation, we'll understand that a little more. There's a mentor allotment that hasn't been described. We have a mentor system already in place here, but this should provide some funding for that. There's a college prep reimbursement to cover the administrative costs of administering the college readiness test. Don't know the details. Certification reimbursement, if our Kate students take a certification test, this in theory will pay for that certification test whether they want to have to or the district won't. No details there. There's a dropout recovery that's been added, and it says we'll receive $275 per ADA qualifying schools, which we have a dropout recovery school, so we're interested in seeing how TEA implements that. None of these new ones are figured into what we were bringing you tonight as revenue, so that should change a little bit, hopefully up. Salary increases, TA is, the House Bill 3 said that you have to spend 30% of any gain that you realize from the basic allotment going up on non-administrative salaries. So whatever gain, and we'll have that in just a minute where you can see what the gain was. The law says you have to, anytime the basic allotment is raised, which it won't be raised until the end of the biennium, so next year it won't be raised. Only the legislature can change that. Minimum additional revenue, the bill says regardless of what the new formulas do, then they assure us that we'll have 3% more per ADA than we had in 18-19. And there's a supplement there. If the formulas don't get you there, the formulas don't get us there. So there's about a $2.5 million supplement to get us to that 103%, and that's part of the scary part that Dr. Smith was talking about. It's nice to have it there, but it may not always be there. Of course, as our values go up, that should shift a little bit, but not a whole lot. TREs, that was an interesting part of it. I think we talked about when you decided to call a TRE election that someday they were going to figure out what we were doing. Well, they figured it out. There would be none in 1920, period. In the future, you have to have it on a general election date, which is November and May. If you're going to have one of these, and in fact, I got a letter today that said TA was going to waive the efficiency audits for now, but you had to have a plan of how you were going to do your TRE finished by January of 19, which nobody has, so they're not waiving anything. And then the worst part of it, as far as we were concerned, if we'd have waited, is there's no more penny swaps. You can't raise your M&O rate and pay INS out of raising your rate. It basically says you cannot raise your M&O rate high enough to pay INS out of. So we slid in at a good time.
Wow. Yay.
And as I told Dr. Smith, even if they wanted to push this on this district, we didn't do that. All the money that we raised extra, we kept in M&O. You allowed us to pay the excess INS out of fund balance in INS last year, and that's the way we planned this budget. So even if it came down to a discussion of that, we're still in good shape. So we did good.
Thank you.
It's always good to feel good about something you did, even though we felt good about it at the time. They caught up, and they were going to. Tax compression. Everybody's talked about this. They had about a jillion ways to do it, and they finally landed on this way, which nobody seems to understand how they did, but they did. You take the first dollar of your tax rate, which our tax rate this time is $1.17, and they compressed it to 93 cents. That's just in statute. The next 8 cents is not compressed. They call those the golden pennies, but we won't spend any time on that. The next 9 cents are compressed to become 0.0584. So if you add all those together, our tax rate that was 117 for M&O is now going to be 1.0684. No discussions. I guess you could set it lower than that if you wanted to, but that's the maximum that you can set it at for next year, which is a reduction of about 10 cents on the total tax rate. And you can still set your INS rate wherever you need to pay your debt. Our recommendation is to leave it at 35 cents. Is that clear as mud? At least it's in the statute this way, so we didn't have to guess just a whole lot.
Yeah, we got some real geniuses down there.
Well, you know, the scary part is I think they know what they're doing, and that's even scarier than them not knowing what they were doing.
Yeah.
Because
You think they do know what they're doing?
yeah,
Okay.
I used to call them stupid, but they're stupid like a fox. They're pretty sure exactly what they're doing, and it's usually hosing us if you want to get down to the dirty words. But anyway, you'll see it, and when we ask you to approve it, you'll have to approve an M&O tax rate of $1.684, and that won't happen until probably August. But we don't have to set it until then. Then we'll have certified values by then. Going back when we pre-TRE, our state revenue and taxes, we keep going back to this number, but it's the reference number that we've used for all of this. We were picking up about $100 million when you got the TRE passed. We picked up about 9.9 million more, or 9.723. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. Fund balances, and these will change a little bit as we finish off the year. You began the year with $50.6 million. You can see that there's going to be a surplus of about 6.5. Keep in mind some of that's TRE money that wasn't spent this year. We're estimating that to be about 3.6 million, so it'll still be around $3 million going into M&O fund balance this year, so that'll put it at about 53.5, which is very healthy. Debt service, we began with 13.9, and we spent 2.5 million of that to pay the INS bill, so we didn't have to pull the money out of M&O. We're going to end with about $11.5 million, which is also very healthy in debt service. As we ask you next year to do the same, it'll take about another 2 million down from that, and that'll probably be a good place to stop. Maybe time for me to leave by then. Extra revenue from the current law to House Bill 3, we pick up about $5.2 million. Our TRE income, and this is because of the way the prior year values and while that fluctuate, instead of the 9 million, we'll pick up about $8.2 million. So we're going to go from current law of 108 million to 113 million, or a gain of 5.2 million. This is the number, but it's not exactly the number, but it's close to the number that TEA is going to use to determine if we gave the 30% in raises. It's actually, they've changed, this is the way it started. Now TEA has decided they're going to base it off of what you raised in 18-19 compared to what you can raise after House Bill 3. So that's going to change just a little, but we're still well within the requirements as we walk through that. Stop me, please, if I...
So it's a 5 million, that's what TEA is going to use that figure to see?
They're going to say that we're going to need to spend 30% of that
Right,
on
okay.
non-administrative raises.
Gotcha.
And as Ms. Brown's going to get deeper into this, I've put this in to show you the basis of what we're asking you to do. I would increase the beginning teacher pay from 51 to 53,000. That would cost us about $278,000. Increase all of the teachers between 1 and 5 years experience by $2,200, and that would cost about $411,000. And I guess I need to back up just a little. I didn't explain that real well. The law says that you have to differentiate between teachers with more than 5 years experience and teachers with less, or 5 and less years experience. And that's what we've done. There's no indication of how you have to differentiate. I told Dr. Smith you could even pay them less because the bill just says differentiate, which I don't think that was the legislative intent. So what this plan has is any teacher with 6+ years experience beginning next year would pick up $2,300 rather than the 22. That would cost us about $1.3 million. And as we've been discussing, all of the rest of the employees would pick up 3% of midpoint, plus the TASB, the adjustments that we've talked about in depth, and that's about a $1.2 million cost. And it does make substantial changes to food service, custodial, bus drivers, maintenance, those kind of people. They're by far the largest adjustments that came out of the TASB study, and certainly were the needed areas. Even though the rest of the employees needed a good raise, that brings them up to where we can be competitive with our neighbors.
Yep, I agree.
It does meet the salary increase requirements of House Bill 3. The total salary increase is almost $3.3 million. Part of the package, we're asking you to allow us to add $11 a month to those that choose to take the district insurance. That keeps the employee-only rate paid for by the district. That would cost about $151,000, and that's $3.6 million. That's a substantial cost, but it's certainly a necessary one in today, and that's not a giant, wonderful insurance plan, but it is will cover the catastrophic pieces. Got a friend. Salary history, looking back through the last 5 years, in 15-16, there was a 3% of midpoint increase given with the teachers receiving $1,326. 16-17, there was a 1% of midpoint, teachers $550. 17-18, there was a 3% of midpoint, and starting teachers went from 50 to 51,000. Existing teachers $1,500, $10 a month increase in insurance. Last year, as you know, there wasn't anything, not knowing whether the TRE was going to pass or not. So the district provided a one-time payment of $1,000 to every employee, plus a $16 a month increase in insurance. And to summarize, we're asking a 3% midpoint, plus the TASB adjustments, beginning teacher pay from $51,000 to $53,000. Teachers with 1 to 5 years experience $2,200. Teachers with 6+, librarians, counselors, and nurses, which they're all included in that group, would receive $2,300 increase. And if you'll look at that, that's substantial compared to any of the last 5 years. So that's what we're asking and what you to approve is an extremely good salary plan for our employees. This is the way the numbers shake out. The beginning teacher pay, once again, is going up $2,000. And there's the amounts that I talked about earlier, the breakdown of all of those, the chosen four, as I call them, the ones that the legislature chooses to separate. So you see the $2.44044 million cost for that increase. As we showed earlier, we're adding $5.2 million new money this year. You take the 2044 away from that, it leaves $3.2 million. And if you remember the TRE addition that we put was $8.2 million. Those together are $11.5 almost million. We've added $863,000 worth of employees this year, projecting to add almost $3 million worth of employees next year. And non-personnel additions for next year is about $2.8 million. That includes the second half of the turf project that we're only going to get part of this year. So that leaves a net of $4.8 million. And then the raise for everyone other than the four costs about $1.2 million. So that still leaves about $3.6 million of the TRE money to do some more of those, that $17 million list that we have from all of the districts that's been compiled. So it's, without it, we would have been $1 million in the hole if we would have brought this plan to you without House Bill 3. And as much as we're going to complain about a lot of things in it, it did provide some funding. Now, once they get through with all the romancing of it, we may have to do some different things to satisfy them that we're doing it in the right place. But it did provide some more money and gave us an opportunity to do what we're asking you. And no questions on that. I'll turn it over to Ms. Brown.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How or why was it decided between the 2,200 and 2,300? How did you get those figures?
We started out just guesstimating some numbers in there, and we had it at 21 and 23, and Ms. Brown can explain this a little better, but when it did, some of our current employees were going to be passed by new hires that we had, so we had to shorten that distance between the two so that we didn't jump over some of our people that had been with us a good while with new hires.
And all the 22 and 23, they're all over the 3%.
No, it's just, it's a number. It's much more than 3%.
It's just, but it's more than 3%.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
We now move into action agenda. The first item. Oh, okay, well, you're
We'll
going to
take
present
it.
something, Kathleen Brown.
Okay. Good evening again. To go deeper into the compensation plan, a little bit about what Dr. Bigby was saying before we jump into there. A 3% increase for our teachers would have been about right over $1,600. So this is very substantial. To have $2,200 for those with 1 to 5 years and $2,300 with those to 6 plus years. So that's a great thing for our teachers. I want to start, this is a slide that I've shown you multiple times, but this time with what we're asking for our starting teacher pay, we've added where that would put us as a district, which is very exciting. You'll see the red line shows where we were when we started having this conversation this year about wanting to become more competitive for our teachers. And you'll see where we fall right in line where Garland ISD currently is during the 18-19 school year at $53,000 for our teachers. So that makes us highly competitive in the market with our peer districts and those that we are competing with for teachers. So that's a very far jump. Also, what our compensation plan will do for our teachers is, as we move through the years, you have a copy of the 18-19 or you have a copy of the 19-20 teacher hiring schedule from year 0 to 21 years. It makes us more competitive as we move forward as well. You'll see that we top and we cap out and we go further than many of these districts on this list with our new salary schedule. So that's very exciting for us.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I just noticed in reading through some of it and stuff too, we were given $1,000 if you had a master's. Have we always been doing that, or did we stop doing that?
We haven't stopped. We've been doing that for a very long time.
Okay.
Yes, and so that's a great point that you bring up. So this is if you have no master's degree, the $53,000. If you join our district, if approved, next year you would start at $54,000 as a beginning teacher, which is very, very high in the Metroplex. And that's for every teacher in the district. Yes.
Okay.
So to review and to look closely at our areas and our groups that we wanted to pay a lot of attention to make sure that we are competitive in the market. Take a look again at our transportation department. Dr. Bigby mentioned that this is where a lot of the money will be spent, making sure that we are competitive with these employees that can go multiple places. We are competing not just with school districts, but with DART and other companies. And so for our bus drivers, this is an example of a bus driver in the district. So just one random person looking at their pay, who currently makes $16.73 per hour in our district. With the TASB recommendation of that market adjustment and the 3% increase, this employee's hourly rate would move from $16.73 per hour to $18.16 per hour. So they would see an increase of $2,080 per year. And that is a lot higher. Dr. Bigby showed what the raises have been over the years. This would be substantial, the highest that we've given in the last 5 years. Looking at our instructional aides, this is another area of focus for us, those individuals who are in the classroom supporting our teachers and our students on a daily basis. This is an example of a classroom aide in the district who currently makes $10.96 per hour. With the adjustment and that 3% increase, this employee would see an hourly rate next year of $11.62, and so they would see $925 addition to their overall compensation during the 19-20 school year. All right, so our food service assistants, same example. This is a person who joined us just this 18-19 school year. So they entered our district making $9.32 an hour. With the market adjustment and that 3% of the midpoint for their pay grade, they would now make $10.05 per hour and see an increase of $1,039 per year. I'm sorry.
Phil?
Okay. A custodian example, same example. You'll see how they increase from $12.29 to $12.92, and the increase that they would see in a year, right over $1,300. So now with our teachers, these are different than we shared before because we really paid close attention to where we wanted to be in the market for our teachers. And so a teacher joining Duncanville in the 19-20 school year would see a beginning teacher salary $2,000 more than where we started in the 18-19 school year at $53,000. You'll see that note at the bottom that says if they have a master's degree that they would be $1,000 higher, so they'd be at $54,000 annually. One of the things that also to mention on this slide is that the state did change the minimum teacher salary. So our state has a minimum teacher salary that you have to pay teachers. We were already far above that. On last school year, it was around $28,000, a little over $28,000. They've increased that now to $33,000, a little over $33,000. And so you can see that we are well above the market. And that is true from year 0 to year 21 plus. So now we'll take a look at a few of our current teachers in the district. For the next few examples, these are teachers who joined our district in the 18-19 school year, and will show you how many years of experience they entered the district with, the raise that they would get if approved, and what their annual salary would look like during the 19-20 school year. So this teacher entered our district with 3 years of experience. Now, going into 19-20, they would have 4 years of experience. So they started on our old compensation schedule at $51,700. With the $2,200 increase, since they fall between 1 and 5 years of experience, they would now make $53,900. If they had a master's degree, they'd be at $54,900. If a person is in our district, so if we compare with someone who was already in our district with 3 years of experience, due to raises from previous years, they would make more than the $53,900. So these are examples of new people to our district from last year. Okay. So we take someone who joined our district last year as a teacher, 9 years of experience. Our compensation schedule started them at $53,500. This year, this teacher would have 6 or more years of experience and would receive $2,300, and so now they would be at $55,800. A current teacher in our district, using for an example, who has all 10 years of experience in our district, would be around $58,566. And so if you're in the district and you've been with the district the entire time, you will make more. And we want, yes, we like that, yes. With a current teacher who joined our district last year, who joined us with 14 years of experience, they will now have 15 years. They will move from 55.2 to 55.5, unless they have a master's degree. And if they're a teacher in our district already, they'll be around $59,000. Okay? So other areas that we wanted to, those are our teachers, examples of some of our teachers. Other groups that we will use, for example, are a couple of the other groups that we spoke about previously. This is an example of a current assistant athletic trainer in our district. One of the things about our trainers, due to the success that our district has, both academically and athletically, we go far into the season, which is a great thing. And so one of the things that we've looked at is we are requesting to add days to our assistant athletic trainers and our head athletic trainer. And so this slide will show a combination of both of those things, the increase plus the additional days. So this particular trainer makes currently $280.82 per day. With that 3% increase plus the additional 8 days, that daily rate would move to $289.97. And with those days, this employee would see an additional $4,259.56 annually. And so you'll see at the bottom how that salary moves with those days and the increase. Okay, counselors. In our district, this is a current high school counselor, as an example, that has 9 years with our district. That salary currently is at $66,923.10. One of the things that's not differentiated, if you're a counselor, librarian, or a nurse in the district, you will receive the $2,300. And so that's for everyone who's in those roles. And so this counselor will see an increase of $2,300, placing their annual salary at $69,223.10. Okay. And so those are just some examples. We could make an example for every group in our district, but we wanted to hone in on some of those that we've been talking about throughout the year, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
I don't have any questions about exactly this, but I just want to ask a question, okay? Because we're talking about recruiting teachers and everything. I'd like to know, like in your department, what processes, when you have a teacher or principal call you and say, man, I have this teacher that I just interviewed and I have got to have her. What are the processes in that ensures that? I realize that we have moved up the ladder and stuff, but we're so competitive and stuff, and a lot of times we lose teachers to Grand Prairie or Mansfield or around here and stuff. So I just want to make sure, what are the processes?
So one of the things that we've implemented under Dr. Smith's leadership that I think helps with that very thing is that we have the capability to give what we call an intent to hire letter. And so if we're at a job fair, or if a principal calls, like we gave one just this week, they say, I have this person, they're working on filling this out, I've interviewed the person, I want to hire them. We have them come over immediately, and we give them an intent to hire letter. And so that intent to hire letter lets them know we are intending to hire you pending these things, meaning their certification, favorable references. But that intent gets them to know we're very interested, and so that helps with us getting those people before they go somewhere else. One of the things that we do deal with is that people are shopping. It's that time of the year, and so we may want you here in the district, and right now, everyone who's a teacher, we're offering them the 51 because that's what we have that's approved. And so why it's so critical is if someone else calls them and they're already at 53, what does that teacher do? They jump in and they take the $53,000. Our stipends are also very competitive in our district, and so sometimes that's what has saved us. So when you couple moving the compensation schedule up to $53,000 with our competitive stipends, I think we'll see less of that. We'll be in a very good place. Very good place. Yes.
Okay, if the principal calls you on Monday and says we want them, they come over and get a letter of intent, what's the time? How long do we sign on the contract by Friday?
Depends on what day it is and if they have everything. Another thing we do is a background check on individuals. We don't want everybody to come if they don't meet our expectation. And so we ask that campuses give us 48 hours. So for example, on last week here at our building, we had about 64 teachers that we already processed. That's the largest group that we've had. We have improved processes for efficiency. And so we are turning them around tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, right? Yep, we have about 44 tomorrow new employees to the district. And so the turnaround is very quick. If the person has all of their stuff together, if they have their certification and they don't have fees to their university and all those things, about 48 hours and they're in. If they have to wait and they can't come to orientation, we also have them come over and sign contracts. I mean, I've met people on the side of the road to sign a contract. I mean, we're going to do what we have to do to take care of our people. Yeah. So thank you all very much. Any other questions? Yes,
One
ma'am.
more question. Of the school districts listed with their 18-19 plans, do you know if and how many of those have already voted and posted their 2019-2020 plans?
None of them have.
None of
We're
them,
first,
okay,
and so we have a
okay.
plan. If this is approved, we have a plan to market first. We're strategically going to market first. So by the time they decide what they're going to do in July, we hope to be done and have all their people.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Bigby returns.
One plus is not everyone's on a July 1 fiscal year. So we are going to get out there in front of those districts that have a September 1 because they won't even approve their budgets until August, and assuming they won't approve their salary plan. So by getting out early, that'll help us some. And like I said, we haven't heard from anyone else. And by the way, the changing of the minimum salary schedule, I know y'all were talking, well, I wish I could have made that when I was first started teaching. Yeah, I made $6,000, but it bought a car on it. But if you remember, we have to pay the state share of the TRS for everything that we pay above state minimum. Well, by them changing the state minimum by more than what we're changing salaries, we're actually going to gain a little money doing that. We kept waiting for the salary schedule to come out, and they really changed the minimum. I feel sorry for those districts that are paying minimum. I don't know how they're going to pay every teacher $5,000 more out of their budgets, but that's an aside. We don't worry about them. Just to summarize what we've talked about, and certainly entertain any questions, budget's based on House Bill 3, is our understanding today. We're looking at about a 6.36 increase in taxable value. Actually, it really doesn't matter because of that supplemental money. We worked through it. Dr. Smith and I were talking about that, and I jumped that up to 8%, and all that does is changes the amount that they supplement our revenue. So not like before where we had to wait on certified values. The revenue we're going to have is going to be the revenue we're going to have. The M&O tax rate reduced from $1.17 to $1.684 INS tax rate stays at 35, with the total tax rate at $1.4184, or a 6.7% decrease. Beginning teacher pay, $53,000, $2,200 increase for teachers with 1 through 5, $2,300 for teachers with 6+, plus counselors, librarians, and nurses, 3% increase plus the TASB recommended adjustments for all other personnel. We left the 88-11-919, which is where we've put it for the last 2 years, at $11 per month to increase the district insurance contribution, and it does include 2 academic counselors, 4 student support counselors, and 3 assistant principals at Duncanville High School. And I would certainly entertain any questions you might have.
No, but I have a comment. I just want to thank you and Dr. Smith for, and your staffs for all of the work that you all did on this, because, and I want to publicly say again that when we met in April or whenever we met, even before we knew about House Bill 3, you guys brought to us a plan to celebrate our teachers and our staff, and to show that we appreciated them, and there were questions and stuff. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that at that meeting, things started coming up with board members about, we think we'd like to see more boots on the ground at the high school, and we need more counselors. And thank you for hearing us, and thank you for figuring out a way. Now we've got to put it in place and make it successful. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Bigby.
you.
We gave up our Christmas bonus for this.
Okay, so. We will now move into the action agenda. The first item to consider is the 2019-2020 compensation plan. Kathleen Brown.
So what we are asking is for everything that we've talked about on this evening. We are asking to change our beginning teacher pay to $53,000, to give our teachers with 1 to 5 years of experience a $2,200 increase, our 6+ year teachers a $2,300 increase, our counselors, librarians, and nurses a $2,300 increase, and to approve all other staff receive a 3% increase from the midpoint plus any required adjustments.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to consider the approval of the 2019-2020 compensation plan?
So moved.
Second.
Phil moved and Cassandra seconded to approve. Are there any questions, comments, or discussions? Yes. Jackie?
So the salary schedule that we have here,
Yes, ma'am.
the existing teachers, I guess everybody makes at least, like for a 15-year teacher, 57,100. Okay, yeah, so there aren't any pay equity
No,
issues.
so you say everyone at that, with 15 years, make that same amount?
I mean, at least.
At least,
least.
yes.
Yeah,
And
at
so
least.
it is
Yeah.
set that the 1920 pay schedule, that's for new people coming in. If you are here already, you will make more than
Yes.
what's listed there. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
We will now move to item B. Consider the authorization for the superintendent to hire during the summer. Ms. Brown, you're up to bat again.
Yes, ma'am. And so our strategic goal for it is the focus on employees and organizational improvement, and that includes us attracting and retaining staff here in the district. And so under board policy DC local, the board delegates the superintendent final authority to hire contractual personnel below the level of campus principals. So that's our teachers and all of those employees that we've talked about tonight. The board retains final authority to hire central administration and contractual personnel, including principals. And so last year we asked this as well, and we're asking this again, to approve this action item to authorize the superintendent to hire contractual personnel from June 13th, 2019 until the August board meeting. And so if the superintendent has this authority to approve, to offer, and to sign contracts on behalf of the district, then we can get those new employees in quickly. If not, we would have to wait until the next board meeting before we're able to make any of those hires. So that is what we're asking.
Do I have a motion to approve the board's authorization for our superintendent to hire during the summer?
So moved.
Cassandra moved,
Second.
and Renee seconded to approve. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passed 7-0. We now continue with communications from citizens. I don't believe we have any cards. Any cards? Well, thank you for coming to our meeting tonight. Being there's no board business to discuss, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.